Hi, I'm Brandon, and I spend most of my gaming time on JRPGs, much of that on my Steam Deck. Recently, Valve just casually announced the Steam controller, the Steam machine, and the Steam frame. So naturally, I immediately started wondering what impact this could have for JRPGs. Is any of this hardware actually going to be worthwhile for playing JRPGs? I think so, and I'll explain why. But first, let's get everyone on the same page. Just about every news outlet has had a field day covering each of these at this point. So here's a quick and dirty summary. The Steam controller is a Steam Deck with the screen chopped out and the remaining bits smushed together. The Steam machine is a GameCube-shaped, gaming-focused PC that is around 6 times as powerful as the Steam Deck. But sadly, it does not have a handle like the GameCube. The Steam frame is a streaming-focused VR headset with its own controllers, and it's good for more than just VR. All three are currently slated to release in early 2026. I wouldn't go so far as to say that PC is the best place to play JRPGs, but it is a very nice option. PC gets a lot of them these days, and it even has some that you won't find on modern consoles, making it a great way to check out older JRPGs that haven't gotten ports without buying an entire console or handheld just for one game. Want to play the original Trails in the Sky trilogy? It's on Steam. How about Wizardry: Labyrinth of Lost Souls? Also on Steam. And of course, discounts on PC games are both relatively frequent and substantial. Of the three hardware options, the one that really has my eye is the Steam machine, a console-like PC. And this is coming from someone who has a Steam Deck and regularly hooks it up to a TV, effectively accomplishing the same thing. The Steam Deck is fantastic, and it's so good for JRPGs that the very first video I ever made was about that very topic. As much as I love the thing, and I still recommend it to people to this day, the hardware is clearly not as impressive as it was when it released back in 2022. The games industry never stops trying to push the boundaries, and while JRPGs are typically not the most graphically intensive games out there, we're getting to that point where some sacrifices are necessary to play the prettiest of them on the Steam Deck. The Metaphor ReFantazio demo was not the smoothest experience, and from what I've seen, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is playable, but not with the kind of visual clarity you'd really want from such a landmark title. We're only going to see more cases like these as time passes. So why not just wait for the Steam Deck too? Maybe that is the better option, but no one knows for sure when that will come out. It still feels like it's a good ways out, maybe another couple years. The Steam Deck might last as long as a traditional console generation the way things are going. The Steam machine sounds like it will be great for streaming to not only the Steam frame, one of the things they're really pushing for it, but also the Steam Deck. The Steam Deck's 800p screen is generally not something I think about a lot. Once I'm in the game, as long as it's 720p or 800p, I'm good to go. When I have to go below that, that's when I really wish it were a little beefier. With the Steam machine, since it will also run SteamOS, just like the Steam Deck, wow, I have said the word Steam way too many times already. I imagine it will have the same incredible sleep and wake functionality. This is standard for game consoles these days, but this has long been a pain point for PC gaming. The idea of grabbing my deck, picking a game to play, and waking the Steam machine from my deck to have it stream the game to my deck in all its visual glory sounds incredible. No more worrying about muddy textures, low resolutions, or headache-inducing frame rates. Streaming sounds like a major focus for the Steam machine, and I'm really hoping that's not just for the Steam frame. If they can minimize latency when streaming to the deck, I might actually want to stream games at home. I might need to get a new router though. Pretty sure it won't just shoot a data beam directly from machine to deck. That would be awesome though. Seriously, my router is not nearly good enough for consistent streaming performance. I think I got it over 8 years ago. It's so outdated at this point. Wow, I haven't even talked about ray tracing. If future JRPGs start requiring ray tracing, the Steam Deck is gonna have to take a hike. Unless there's a Steam machine around to stream from. Even if you don't have a Steam Deck, and you're not interested in the portable experience it offers, maybe check out the Steam machine. It looks like it has reasonable specs for gaming, nothing super high-end, mind you. And if SteamOS works as well on it as it does on the Steam Deck, you might find that it's a great option. On the topic of specs, let's address the elephant in the room. People are concerned about the graphics card. It's a mobile card, so imagine a weaker version of a desktop card like what you'd get in a laptop, and it has 8 GB of VRAM. We're already seeing games that want more than that. And here's where I have to remind myself that this isn't supposed to be the ultimate gaming PC with a graphics card so expensive you could get a used car instead. The whole premise is based on relying on upscaling to get to higher resolutions like 4K. But again, JRPGs are typically not crazy for VRAM. They don't need massive amounts. Let's take a look at what kind of hardware is recommended for some JRPGs on Steam to get a clear idea of what we're working with. Dragon Quest XI came out on just about every platform and only needs 2 GB of VRAM. The next few games don't list a specific amount of VRAM, but the graphics card requirements are very reasonable. Trails in the Sky First Chapter, the recent remake, only lists minimum requirements, interestingly enough, but it lists a graphics card from almost 10 years ago. Dragon Quest III HD 2D Remake also lists a graphics card from almost 10 years ago, and that's for the recommended hardware. Rune Factory Guardians of Ozma lists a card from nearly 7 years ago. The upcoming Dragon Quest VII Reimagined recommends one graphics card from 9 years ago. Visions of Mana's recommended specs include the RTX 2070, which came out 7 years ago. For the minimum specs, it says it needs 6 GB of VRAM. Atelier Yumiya recommends 6 GB. Dragon Quest Builders 2 also recommends 6 GB. Grand Blue Fantasy Relink recommends 8 GB. Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade recommends 8 GB. And here's where it gets a little bit trickier. Final Fantasy XVI lists 8 GB for both the minimum and the recommended. Final Fantasy Rebirth explicitly says that they recommend 12 GB or more for 4K. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 recommends 8 GB for the Nvidia card and 16 GB for the AMD card. Those last few might sound a little iffy in terms of the VRAM requirement, but with upscaling technology like FSR, maybe it won't be that big of an issue. I'm actually really impressed by how reasonable the requirements are for most of these games. Now, VRAM is absolutely not the only thing to consider when it comes to game performance on PC, and one of the greatest strengths of the platform is the ability to tweak settings to get the kind of performance you want. But I think Valve might have hit the sweet spot here with cost and performance. I hope so anyway, because if this thing can't run Persona 6, people are gonna riot. Chaos in the streets. The Steam Frame is a VR headset, but since I'm one of those people who gets very motion sick in VR, I'm more curious to see how it could function as AR glasses. All I would really want from it is a nice big screen experience strapped to my face. Surely that wouldn't make me motion sick, right? The frame is really interesting to me because it has an ARM chip, like what you'd find in a smartphone, as opposed to an x86 chip like we have in most PCs these days. I'm not the most well-versed in all this stuff, but the impression I have is that ARM chips have significantly better battery life thanks to requiring less power. Combine this with the advancements currently being made getting regular PC games running on ARM chips, I'm specifically thinking of devices that run Android, and the future is looking pretty wild. Whether we see it really take off with this one device or not, I wouldn't be all that surprised if the Steam Deck 2 relied on an ARM chip. I highly doubt it, but it's fun to think about. The Steam controller looks like a nice controller. I don't have a ton to say about it. I've appreciated the Steam Deck's controls, especially when doing regular PC stuff like managing files, so I imagine I'd enjoy this too. I do like the little charging puck it comes with. Magnets are great. Everything comes down to price in the end. And we don't know that yet. They haven't said. Speculation is all over the place. I am hopeful that they're approaching all this with the same mentality as the Steam Deck, trying to keep things affordable to offer a great experience without stretching into the kind of hardware required for ultra settings and a bazillion frames per second. If they can magically keep the price down, this could become a very attractive ecosystem. The Steam machine seems like it will offer good enough performance for basically every game out right now, the console-like ease of use SteamOS brings with it, and a library of JRPGs no one can scoff at. Thanks to the fact that most JRPGs don't need to rely on technically impressive graphics to be beautiful, even as time moves forward and the graphics improve, I imagine that very few will stress the Steam machine so hard that it can't keep up. I have been consistently impressed by how many I can play on my Steam Deck, and this feels like a natural extension of that experience. New game hardware announcements are always a ton of fun, but I'm not necessarily expecting to pick up one of everything for myself. The excitement of seeing what's new and imagining where things are going is something I want to hold on to. But excitement does not dictate how I spend my money. I could end up being one of the people who waits for a Steam Deck too. Only time will tell. For now, I'm enjoying this ride. What do you think about all this? Do you have a Steam Deck and still want a Steam machine? If you don't have a Steam Deck, does the Steam machine look like a good entry point into convenient PC gaming for you? Let's chat in the comments. Remember to subscribe for more and to give the video a like to tell the world there's value here. Now go find some fun. Peace.